This video is brought to you by myplayerpage.com, the best place for athletes to showcase their information. Visit us today.
Hello folks, Randy McKee here with Soccer 605, and we're here with Coach Dale Weiler, who's head of competitive for Dakota Alliance. We're starting to do our spring and summer roundup, and we're going to sit down and visit with Coach Weiler here a little bit about what Dakota Alliance has going with their teams this summer. Thanks, Dale, for being with us.
Not a problem. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
So, I suppose you're like everybody else this time of year. You're just scratching and clawing to get out there on the grass right now.
Yeah, definitely. Me and Frank have, over the last probably few weeks, have really, tried to think about the time that we're going to get outside, and last year at this time, I want to say we had the opportunity to go outside kind of in mid-March, towards the end of March, and then an ice storm occurred, and that kind of set us back almost like a month. So we're kind of praying that, the weather's going to turn and we'll be able to get outside as soon as possible. I mean, for our competitive teams, it's always tough this time of year because we can't go out to Harrisburg and start training right now. We got to let the ground kind of thaw out. So a lot of our teams are looking for local parks around the area that have, a decent patch of grass or it's not all mud, and just get out there just to, stretch their legs out more than anything else, because now we have space, we get outside to be able to do some different things. So yeah, the sooner the better for it, or the sooner the better, but in the meantime, we do have the field house that we can use all the way through April, which is nice, because I know last year when the ice storm happened, we still had the capability to go inside. So that was a plus, and we still have that opportunity this year. So that's kind of like our plan B. If we can't get outside, we can at least go inside and get some touches and whatnot.
In January, I was at the field house for the South Dakota State ID camp, and they had all the nets pulled up.
Yeah.
And when you have the nets up and have a full field in there, that's a massive piece of grass.
I know, it's awesome. That's something that we're kind of been in the works with, talking with Brad in the field house, is, what can we do maybe in the future to open that up and try to put maybe some type of event where you play 7v7 and have two pads going on, or even maybe the whole thing, because I think that would attract, a number of different clubs and players to, come here. It's different, we don't have that around here. So,
and we've thought even several times about what a great idea it would be to do that and just like have a club college ID weekend.
Correct.
Where you could have that kind of activity.
Definitely. I mean, the whole club college ID camp stuff, that's really booming right now over the last few years, and I know a lot of, colleges host them on their campuses, and they either do it in their football facility or whatever it is, and they just bring in other coaches, promote it, get as many kids as possible, and we have the space to do it. So that's definitely something that we've thought about doing for sure for this probably next winter.
Well, I really hope we can see that happen. That's just one more step in progress here.
Definitely.
Well, you got, like everybody, your teams are scheduled to go near and far this spring and summer. So why don't we just start with some of your key teams? Let's start with the older groups and kind of take a look at where they're going.
Yeah, so, the winter's always tough for older age groups because, if they are teams that are maybe looking to play college soccer, we want to provide events for them that can give them that opportunity. In the wintertime, it's tough, but really, the Elite 120 Showcase was an event that was at the end of February. We had a few teams go to that were 16 and older, and that was 11v11. The weather was actually nice. I brought a team down there. But really, it's about, finding appropriate events with appropriate competition. And that's always kind of the way we've got to do it, is where can we go that's going to be best for our teams. And in Dakota Alliance, a lot of our age groups are different in terms of ability. Like one age group might have a stellar group of players that can go and face, different types of teams, where another, it's not so much. So that's always a little bit tricky. But I think events like, for example, I'll take this weekend, a number of our teams are going to Emerald Cup, and that's generally in our club kind of kicks off our spring season or our summer season, whatever you want to call it. And that allows us 11v11, kind of the first time to get outside. So the boys event is this weekend, and I want to say all of our teams are going down except our 13 boys who are doing another event, I think the weekend after down there. So yeah, we're getting outside. I think it's good timing. I think that event allows a lot of competition in terms of, the three divisions I think they have in it. So it allows, like I said, some of the groups to play in one where it's appropriate for them, and it works out pretty good. So we're looking forward to it. The weather's supposed to be nice.
Well, and we look ahead. They I think did a really intelligent thing this year by putting the state cup back about a month.
Yes.
And having it in combination with the recreational soccer. I know, having been a soccer coach in South Dakota for a couple decades, I always hated that first weekend in May because you always knew what you were going to get. Maybe one nice weekend out of 5 or 6, but
I know. I mean, in terms of preparation, I mean, how can you prepare for something that's going to be at the beginning of May when you might not get outside until the middle of April? So yeah, it's really exciting that it's pushed back. I mean, for all teams associated with it, it's going to allow them time to, actually work on something, that can help, prepare them appropriately. And you can't really get that when you're inside because of that small space. I took a group to a Shattuck event the other weekend, and we've been in this 30 by 45 yard space for 3 months, and then you get out to a big field and they want to play inside their 18-yard box the whole time. It's really difficult. So to have the time to get out in the field and work on things on a bigger field and spacing and all that, it's going to be good to have it in Brookings, which I think is cool. Great facility up there, and the timing will be great in June. So.
And we're hoping, actually, I've been in visiting with some of the people in Brookings today about trying to bring some of the games in the stadium there.
Yeah,
and
that would be awesome.
live broadcast those, not only in the rec tournament, but also in the state cup. So hopefully we can get a good internet access there, and we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Great field up there.
So, you're looking ahead, to state cup. We've got probably some players doing ODP. I know last year you had a player or two that got in the
pool a little bit.
The pool, and so do you know how many players you're going to have doing ODP this year?
I don't off the top of my head. I think Frank would be able to probably answer that better, just because he went up there. I know for the ODP stuff last weekend in Aberdeen or the weekend before. But we promote it. I mean, the struggle with South Dakota ODP in the past is just numbers, right? Like, we need to get numbers into the program and truly kind of market it as this is an extra benefit that if you really do participate, going to the regional camp is kind of where you see a good crop of players coming out of the Midwest that you can kind of, like match yourself up against and say, okay, this is where I'm at as a player. And this is where he's at as a player. He made the pool, so maybe this is, it kind of tells you where you're at. But, I mean, we need to get players involved with it. There's no doubt. And I think, from a state level, I've heard, that there's more promotion of it occurring in terms of, hey, here's our camps. Let's get players out. Let's really keep pushing for it because I think it's really important.
I think they've done a better job this year at getting the schedules out of the events and, talking to players. So, we're certainly big proponents of ODP, and my wife actually used to run ODP for Region 2. So I mean, we're real ODP fans, and we've seen what happens to these players when they walk up and get that red Region 2 shirt.
That's pretty cool.
Especially on the girls' side today. It's that's a huge deal if they can get that accomplished. So
yeah, definitely.
And we got obviously the state cup last year. Dakota Alliance won almost every division. There were a couple here and there sprinkled throughout, and then you're probably looking at Region 2. That's in Dayton this year. We've been hearing that we've got more clubs who are registering teams in U.S. Club Soccer Regionals in Chicago too. Yeah,
that's also a conversation that me and Frank and us in the office are constantly talking about with our coaches too. Is it goes back to appropriate competition. And if you, a lot of people might say that, going to regionals, from the USU side, all of our teams are getting killed all the time. And I mean, it does happen, and it's probably pretty consistent theme of the fact of our groups go there, maybe one or two show okay, maybe get a win, a couple goals, a tie, whatever the case. But I think there needs to be probably more open-mindedness about, okay, what's best for our club, what's best for maybe some of the groups in our club to do, and going to U.S. Club Regionals where the competition is probably a little bit more appropriate for the types of teams that maybe South Dakota produces.
At least you can choose your level.
Absolutely.
You don't have to compete. I mean, you can go play the super clubs there if you want.
Right, and it'll be really tough. I know.
Well, it'll be just like going to regionals because a lot of the teams are the same exact clubs. But you get to choose the the super club level, or you get to choose the regular club level. And that, I mean, for clubs coming out of South Dakota, I think you can find plenty of competition at that level.
Right. This might be kind of just my thought process on it, but I think at like U13 and U14, where those groups are just getting kind of a feel for what it is, I would say that it's appropriate to maybe try regionals.
Sure.
And say, okay, this is where our group is at this regional level. And then from there, it's a determination of, do we want to keep doing this? What else is there out there to do? And when I talk to other clubs and stuff, I've got a couple connections in Minnesota. They don't put all their eggs into the regional basket, so to speak. The regionals for them is another event. Okay, we won state and we get to go there, but it's like, I feel like sometimes here we put a lot of impetus into that.
Yeah.
When maybe, it's great, sure, another event that we're, trying to vie for. It's really great to be called a state cup champion. We don't want to take away from that. But in the end, it's what's best development for the kids, and to end on an event like regionals, I think finding some success, right, at the end of your season is important. And if that might not be through regionals, then sure, maybe we need to change that for some groups. But in the same time, I think it's every time I've gone anyway, I find some positive in it. And I think if our coaches are open to that and say, okay, I found some positive in this, then we discuss, should we do it again or what
Yeah, well, one of the things, and I've been looking at this situation for years now, and because there are some real hang-ups with USU soccer, and I mean that's just part of the huge bureaucracy
Sure.
that is, and that's what I really liked about US club soccer because they had the same frustrations, and it seems to me that organization is made up of soccer people who just want to make good soccer and make everything common sense. And everything you look at that they do is pretty much lean in that direction. It's built for the teams or the players instead of the administrators.
Yeah, sure. In my experience with it, it's I don't have a lot, to be honest, with US Club. My connection to it is from third-party people, and other clubs that do participate in it. Like I'll take St. Croix Soccer Club, for example. They have teams that participate in the NPL, which is kind of the equivalent of like the MRL. And I know their experience is a little bit different in that. The types of teams are different, the organization a little bit different. But I think there's benefits to both. I just think every club is different too. So the needs of one club are different from another. So maybe they will fall into that US club versus,
And
USU.
the nice thing is you don't have to choose one over the other.
Right,
I mean,
right.
most of the top clubs in America today, probably all of the top clubs are both US Club and
Yeah,
USU.
there's a combination
Yeah.
of them, for sure.
Well, anyway, that'll be exciting to
Yeah.
see if your club does get involved in that tournament, and I think giving them that opportunity to participate at a regional level against
Right.
some very good teams, kind of on their own level, is can be nothing but positive. The Barcelona team from South Dakota United last year had a tremendous run.
Correct.
Went down and won a national championship, and
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of started slow in the spring. Your Dakota Alliance team beat them at state cup, and then they kind of built through the summer and got going. So
Yeah.
it's a great way to continue on, and I guess having your regional tournament in the same town every year is probably a big bonus too.
It is too. Yeah, I should have mentioned this. We do have a team participating in the US Club regionals this year. It's our U16 boys group. We had, the same conversation we're having about if it's, appropriate to go to the US Youth regionals or what to do, and they're going to try it out. And I think that'll be good. It's kind of like a little pilot sort of team to go say, hey, what was your experience like, and then go from there and see if it's a good thing to do.
Well, I didn't even know this till I, a couple of years ago started doing a little research on it, but, the old Dakota Gold Club used to be a U.S. club soccer club as well as a USU soccer club.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. So,
Shows you what I know.
yeah. Well, we're here on signing day. Saw just about an entire team trying to go onto the college level
the
of
18
your
too.
girls team. What do you have coming up under that team in terms of any special players who are getting D1 looks? I mean, we just talked about a boys player who committed, and but what do you have in terms of? Do you have any teams that look like that team that we're going to see so many of those kids going on?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that. I mean, it's weird how different our teams are, in each age group, like I've said now a couple times. But I think our U15, 16 girls right now are really similar to that. I mean, they're showing well in events that they go to. I think the events are appropriate for their competition level, so that's good. I mean, players like Teresa Pajado, as you know, is a phenomenal player coming out of our club. Megan Ettrim's another one that they're freshmen right now.
Yeah.
But those are strong, solid groups, and same with our 16 girls right now. Makana Nafa is the coach of them, and they've showed pretty well at some of the winter events that they've done. So I think on the girls' side, the future's definitely bright in terms of the caliber of player to when they get to that U17, 18 level, where going to college and making an impact and whatnot will be true for them. On the boys' side, the team I coach right now is the 17 boys. There's quite a few that on the group that have some interest from schools. Probably about half the group right now, so that's a positive. Because as you know, on the boys' side, it's always a little bit tougher to get that. But on the boys' side too, what I try to tell them is that here where we're located at, Division III and NAIA schools are predominant, right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
They don't need to get this big thought up here in the clouds of I have to play Division I or Division II soccer, because that's not realistic for a lot of our guys. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, there's still a stigma against NAIA and Division III that the level of soccer isn't very high. That's not true.
That's not true at all.
I know, and because of your son, and you've gone through the process with it, and me as a player and coaching at that level too. It's let's take for example like Augie girls going and playing South Dakota State. So that's Division II to Division I, and they're generally pretty close games. Or a NAIA team like Dakota Wesleyan going and playing a Division III school. I mean, they're going to be close.
Yep.
So I think it's important for our kids to understand that their expectations need to be appropriate for what's around them, right? Because no one's going to UCLA from here. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I always
gotta
love
be
that
realistic.
what Joe Berger said 2 years ago at the AGM. Carroll was doing a recruiting workshop, and Joe Berger out at the School of Mines
Yep.
Joe's really noted for being candid.
Sure.
So he looks out at this crowd of kids and he goes, look, if Notre Dame hasn't called you by the time you're a sophomore,
Yeah.
they ain't calling.
I know. Yeah, sometimes that's what they got to hear, though.
Yeah,
So,
there were some broken hearts in there, but I think the reality is you kind of, when you're looking at D1, yeah, as a player, you kind of have to be careful what you wish for. We were doing a little bit of studying into this over the winter, and I talked to Connor about the girls at Northern Illinois, and they're working hard to get in that top tier of Division I schools.
Sure.
It's a big school, and they got a lot of good players, but a girl that goes to Northern Illinois has about 85 to 87% of her entire college experience is
around
soccer.
Yep.
And for some players to think that almost 90% of your time is going to be consumed by soccer, when you look at that realistically, a lot of people don't really want or need that much
Right.
soccer experience.
Right. No, totally. I mean, I'll just use my experience. I played Division I soccer at a school, and I was the type of person that I ate soccer every day. Right. That's all I wanted to do. So my experience going there, I wanted it to be 85% of my life. Right. Where others on my team there, they didn't.
Yeah.
They weren't like that at all, and they were like, "Geez, I got 6:30 a.m. practice like 3 days a week in the winter." And then those players kind of teeter out towards the end, and that's just kind of the nature of it. So you've got to definitely be the right type of person for it, right type of player for it. But I think that just goes back to our players not being as knowledgeable about it as they should be, and that goes back to us as, club organizers and administrators to preach that to them and say, hey, this is the process, this is where you're at, and being candid, like you said, is really, really important. So
It really is, and the kids have to, like you were saying earlier, the kids have to be, if you're a player, you have to be realistic about
Absolutely.
where you really fit in. And,
Absolutely, yeah.
Talking with a couple coaches on the men's side here in South Dakota about their frustration and saying, yeah, I'm talking to 8 guys and they're graduating this spring and they all still are waiting for a D1 offer, and
I know.
it's just not realistic. So
I know.
Hopefully, if you're a player and you're watching this, especially if you're a young player, think about that, because that'll save you a lot of agony in the long run.
Totally. And I think, starting at a younger age with that information and education about it. So the 15 girls, when you guys came in and we had that, long kind of seminar, I mean, the sooner the better that they know. You know, if there's, like you said, there's no one knocking on your door when you're, younger, then it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, and,
but,
and there's a place for you.
Absolutely.
There's a program for you to play at.
Yep, for sure. And there's a lot around here, on the boys' side too. I saw Tanner Hoffman, who was a player with Dakota Alliance. He came because he's on spring break. He plays at Midland.
Yeah.
And they had a phenomenal year. And a player like Tanner, who was unsure of maybe where he'd fit in, he's gone there and been really successful with a great program.
And he saw probably firsthand from his brother going to a big time D1 school.
And what can happen?
Yeah, it's not for some players, even with a player as good as Stewart was or is.
Yeah.
To go in there and you go D1, you sit on the bench. And,
that happens.
And one of my former players, Aaron Zendejas, he was a Region 2 player. I helped him get in that Region 2 team. I coached him when he was a youth. He sat the bench for 2.5 years, and finally the guy in front of him got hurt, and then he became a starter.
Yeah, that's how it happens.
Yeah, but Aaron had that unique quality. He was, he got up every day and he was a believer, and that worked for him. So, well, Coach. I think we kind of wandered off the path, but I think what we're talking about here is important for players and their parents to understand.
Yeah, definitely.
So, we're going to be keeping close tabs. Of course, we have your invitational tournament coming up in June.
Yep, June 13th.
So, I suppose the registrations are starting to roll in on
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Dan Haynes, who is a coach in our club, he's been in the office kind of nonstop helping with the marketing of our tournament and really trying to get some clubs to kind of fully commit numbers of teams to come to it. And he's done an excellent job in getting a little bit more diversity. I know a couple clubs in Iowa are sending up multiple teams. Iowa Rush is going to send up maybe 5, 6, 7. He really tapped into Minnesota, and I'm trying to think of the clubs off the top of my head, but more of those suburban, sort of like Maplebrook, I know is one. Maybe NSSA, North Suburban Soccer Association, something like that. But yeah, just different teams to come in. And we're excited about that because last year, I don't think that there was as much, diversity as we thought was going to happen with it. But now, him and Danielle working together on it, it's a good positive thing. So we're looking forward to it.
That's great to get that new blood coming in.
Yeah, it is.
That generates a lot more excitement, gets that different level of competition. And, that's fantastic. I've always really loved this tournament.
Good.
Ever since I started bringing kids here 15 years ago, you know. And, so we'll be there, hopefully working with Danielle. We'll have a Soccer 605 player tent there.
For sure.
And we're going to be working with the college coaches and a little bit with the refs to make sure that everybody's comfy and has some shade. But at the Soccer 605 tent, make sure and stop by, get an interview, sit down and watch some highlight clips.
And another thing, too, at the tournament, which will probably be right next to your tent, is the World Cup's obviously going to be going on.
Yep.
It starts, I think, the week before, or the middle of the week of the 13th, I want to say. We're trying to get a big World Cup sort of tent up with some big flat screen TVs, and I think someone's going to play it for us or have it on, so that'll be pretty cool. A lot of good atmosphere.
Since we're in video, we'll probably get a little bit bit of that too. But we want to have this be our first good players lounge at a tournament, and we've really enjoyed working with Frank and with the club about some of the things that we can work together on to make soccer a better experience for players.
Yeah, and as I always say whenever we chat, I mean, me personally, I appreciate it a lot. And I know the club does too, and we're just going to keep working together and make sure we're, bringing soccer to the community as best as possible. So
that's our job.
Yes.
Well, Coach Weiler, thanks a lot for spending a little time with us today, and
thanks, Randy. Yep.
And thank you for watching. And we will see you on a pitch sometime here in the very near future, I hope.